So here we are at the first podcast of Banyan Tribe. Banyan Tribe is a business community wherein business owners come and connect and exchange business and help each other in growing business. And on this first podcast, we have Mr. Rohit Goel, who is a US CPA and is an expert in financial industry. He specializes in operations and finance. And let's know more about him from Mr. Rohit Goel. Welcome to Banyan Tribe, Rohit.
Thank you, Anu. Thank you for having me.
And we would like to know more about your journey in the financial sector.
I started my journey approximately 10 years ago, 2013-14. I was doing a course called Chartered Accountancy, and in that course, I was supposed to do the articleship period, and that period was very good for me. It was very hardworking, and did my most of my big clients. I did Airtel and Tata in that time period. In 2016, I dropped out from Chartered Accountancy, and I moved to do my independent consultancy to the client type. Then one thing led to another. I was introduced to a US market. I got introduction with a couple of companies in the US. One of the companies is a listed company in the US offered me an executive position, and they asked me to visit US. They invite me to the US. They offer me a CPA. I took it, and with God grace, I did my CPA. From there, with all the word of mouth marketing, it led to having multiple clients in the US and Canada, where I help them in taking better financial decisions and operational decisions. And that's what I used to do till 2021. But now in 21, I decided, considering India's growth journey and estimating that India has huge potential in next 20-25 years, I feel like it will be more, I can add more value to the businesses in India, and I can make sure that in India, the small businesses are using the resources fully and they're growing at a good pace. So that's why now I moved to India. I joined Banyan Tribe to get introduced with those kind of companies, those people who have that vision. So here I am. That's what I do. That's how my journey is.
That's a great, Rohit, and that's really a commendable journey. And let me congratulate you first that you chose to come back to India. And that's a treasure for India,
Yes.
and especially for Banyan Tribe.
No, it's my pleasure. I think next, and I truly feel that next not 25 years, but 50 years, it's all going to be about India. Right now, everyone in the world is looking to India. We are not anymore look like a third world country. We're not anyone who needs to be cornered. People look up to us with respect, and they are expect us to make international policies and international perspectives. So it's a great era for India, and I believe we need more and more entrepreneurs in India to take this to a next level.
And that's great. And I must say that with young people like you coming into finance and seeing business from your perspective, so it is going to be a different version of doing business in India altogether with the kind of expertise you have. So the other day I was just going through social media and I saw that recession is coming, and the least affected country for that is India.
Yeah.
And that was really nice to see. And I'll tell you something that my daughter has a dream to go and study in UK. So when I saw that, and UK is the first country which is going to be the highest impacted in recession. So I made her see that. I said, okay, you just have to rethink about it where you want to study for your higher studies, because India is going to be the power that the world is going to recognize. So I would just want to ask you, Rohit, and share your experience there, that you worked with the US, the Canada, and the Indians. So what is your experience, dealing with people in different countries? What is your vision?
So the experience is very different. It's not something you can take it. People in the US and people in India are totally different. The way they work is totally different. And I don't know if you notice, in India has a very famous handshake, which is like this, which is not a yes, which is not a no. Because people in the US are always being trained, and it's been going on from decades, from even I would say from Bible, when they have been told what to do, and they accepted it with the promise of a promised land, from a land where they can have, which we call heaven. So that's what they have. They needs to have a process. They need to have proper procedures to do things, and at the end of the day, they need to reach to be there. And that's what the US mindset is. So they need to have the proper process, and they need to know where they're going. But when you talk to Indian people and Indian businessmen and Indian entrepreneur, they're totally different. They don't need a promised land. They need the journey needs to be good. They want to understand the journey much better. They want to evaluate the journey much better. So the processes are important, but the vision is also important. The like-mindedness is also important. The vibe with the people they're working is also important, equally important. So that's a quite difference I feel. And the other major difference I feel is that in the US, leader is considered a huge. Means in the US they put the leader on the throne. In the India, leader is not someone who's on the throne. Leader is someone who has followers. Leader
Yes.
is someone who
Absolutely.
can convince the people to follow him.
Absolutely.
So that's something which is different, I feel.
Yeah. So I very well second that India runs on emotions, and when
Yeah.
you understand the emotion right, then you
Mhm.
can do business with it.
Correct.
Right. So I know that besides business and finance, you are an ardent follower
Mhm.
of Vedic traditions, mythology, and I would really want to know that what spiked your interest in that.
So there's what spiked my interest into that is I've always been very curious from day one, and I always want to do something interesting in my life. I never want to have an average life. So of course I have too many questions to ask that how can I, get up to that level. And I tried so many things. I tried many books and tried listening to many entrepreneurs. At I was talking like 2010, 11. At that time, entrepreneurship is only in US. In India, we don't have entrepreneurs. Means we did, but we never celebrated them. So then somehow I got introduced to a book called Business Sutra, and that's a book written by Devnath Patnaik, and that book talks about Indian ways of doing business, and it's really insightful. The name I bought the book only because of the name, and when I read it 3 4 times to understand it. But when I read it, I came to know that the business, what we've been told that Hinduism is a religion, is not true. Hinduism, first of all, there's a lot of conflict, but let's assume what we follow right now is Hinduism. So if the Hinduism is not a religion, Hinduism is a way of living your life. Hinduism is the way the society and culture works. And when there's a way of society and culture works, there must be processes. There must be a way precise, which is standing for last 4,000 to 6,000 years. There must be something there which we are not reading or which we are not able to accept it,
Right.
which they have, and they're able to do it in our society. But we are not. We are just looking to the West, so we are just looking to someone else coming and explain us how to make a process. So that what interests me. And when I start reading it, I feel that that's true. I feel that there are many other ways.
So I very well second you on that again, and it's my favorite line
Mhm.
that Indianism and Sanatan Dharma, it's a way of life. It's not
Yes.
religion, it's a
No.
way of life. And we need to just relearn, we just need to dust off ourselves because we have known it. It's in our
Right.
DNA.
Yes.
It's because of the Mughal and the British invasions that we have forgotten because we
Yes.
were made to forget it. It's just that we have to get back to our roots and do it again.
Right.
And please share what you read in that book and how you're practicing it in your work.
So I'll give you a very simple basis of how I do it. So if you could read any management book on the West, in the West, they always talk about have a vision statement. They say you need to have a vision statement, then you need to have a mission statement, then you need to have processes, and then you need someone to follow it. So that's how all the management books teach you in the West. But if you look into Indian context, they talk totally opposite. What they talk about is you need to be an individual. That individual needs to understand who he is. That individual needs to come up with a mission of his life, and then maybe he solve a purpose. And if not in this life, in the next life, but he will figure out the purpose somewhere down the line. That what the whole purpose of life is. But your purpose needs to be driven by the belief system you have. It's not the other way around. Right now, what we expect from everyone is, or if I talk about businesses, what a CEO expects that if I have a vision, my employee should automatically deploy on my vision, which is not practically possible.
Right.
There's two different individuals. So it's not that my vision needs to be everyone's vision. It's just like I need to have my team aligned with the vision I have. It doesn't need to be the same one, but it needs to be aligned with the vision. They need to accept, at least they need to be acknowledge my vision, and I acknowledge their vision, and both of us work in a way that we go in the same direction. So that's what I learned is a basic difference and what opened my eye to the Vedic information I read.
Right, absolutely. So yes, it's a very valid point, wherein people in the organization should feel the purpose that why they are here. Then only they can connect to the mission and vision, as they say, of the organization.
And they need to align with it.
Yes, they need to align their purpose with the
Exactly.
purpose of the organization.
Exactly. And there are many Western companies, just to tell you, who are following it. If I give you an example of Apple. In Apple, if you want to be in any management position, and I'm talking about management position which started from a directorship, you need to love Macintosh. No matter what your age is. If you wants to be in a leadership position, you need to love Macintosh. If anyone in the leadership position feels that you don't love Macintosh, then you cannot be appointed. No matter how good you are, no matter how long you are in the company, you cannot be, because they feel if you don't love the major soul of the company, you don't love what the company is built on, then your purpose is not the same, your vision is not the same, your mission is not the same. So if your belief system does not match with the company, then you should not be on the leadership position. In the managerial side, but if you talk about someone as a manager, if they want to promote it, that person needs to be extraordinary in that skill. So for example, if they want a team leader for a coder, that team leader needs to be extraordinary coder. But then it's not about the belief system so much. Then it's more about how can you lead your team. So these are the two different systems which come from individuals. And ironically, this is what our books and our culture and scripture said, and been followed by the company founded in the West.
Yeah. So I find it very funny, and it's ironical that because Sanatana Dharma is a very, very old and the first culture or the civilization or a way of life that we can trace, and everything has flown from here to the West, as we were robbed in the past, and everything was taken from here. And now, when we see Westerners doing those things, then we want to do it.
Yeah.
We want to ape it now. Otherwise, we won't do it. Baba Ramdev ji, he said, "Do yoga, do yoga." People didn't know, but when people from the West, they are doing it their way, then people want to do it.
Yeah, because they don't want to do yoga. They just want to have a cultural validation from the West. That's the only thing. See, if someone, I truly believe that your purpose matters the most. Why you're doing something is very important. No matter you are ignorant about it or not. If someone is going to a yoga class just because he wants to show off or he wants to be with the kind of a people, then he's not going for yoga. So no matter you are doing yoga, you're doing dance or whatever you do, the purpose you're doing it is you're going and meeting those people and getting validation.
Right. So basically, I guess there needs to be a mindset change. People need to, think differently, because doing things right is important rather than keeping somebody mindlessly.
Right. I do agree with this. I think that's the right way to do it. But it's a change which will take time. It takes us like the Mughal invasion came. First Mughal invasion came in 642. So it's a huge, not 600 but 1640. Stats are from 1142. The first Mughal invasion came in 1142. Then Babur came and started ruling it. So it's a huge journey. You're talking about 900,000
years,
almost 1,000 years. It's not going to change now. Yeah. But of course, I'm trying to make a small difference. If we can, we are trying to make
a single drop matters.
Yeah. Matters. I'm just trying 1% change in 1 billion people. So we're trying to do that. So if it's possible, then nothing bad.
That's great. And because I also believe in the same ideology, and I think one drop here, one drop there, and several other drops like that will change the ocean.
100%.
In India.
100%.
Right. So, Rohit, when we're talking about a lot about Vedic times of India, so at Banyan Tribe, our favorite quote is Vasudev Kutumbakam.
Yes.
Which says, the world is one family. So what is your say on that?
So I would agree with that. So there's no point, there's no disagreement in this. But we should also interestingly look at when it was said and where it was said. So if you say Vasudev Kurupai was said by Sri Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, and it was sent to Arjun when he was standing between the war zone. So there are too many, Bhagavad Gita, of course, is a huge and very respected culture scripture in a culture. But if you see, we are quoting it a lot, but we should also see that when it was said and what was the purpose at that point. So the purpose Sri Krishna wants to say at that point was, and he told Arjun when Arjun asked him that how can I kill my own brothers? How can I kill my own family? Someone who see me through, from whom I learn everything. How can I go and kill him? So that time Sri Krishna said that everyone is a family. How can you say that this is your only family? So that was the whole purpose of saying this. Everyone, but in addition to that, it also teaches us that we should not bound ourselves with any kind of belongingness. So if I am sitting with you and I have doing business with you or not doing business with you, I should not consider you as a third person. My emotional and intellectual content and my emotional and intellectual intent should be same with you as I have with my family member. So I should not be holding myself back to help you, and I should not holding myself back to make sure that you grow in your life. So that's what the intent we can come out of it, and that's what Sri Krishna might mean. I don't know. That's my interpretation. So that might Sri Krishna was. So I do agree with this, and we should always have that intent to help as many people as we can.
True. So I very well agree again with you, Rohit, that the context was that that the entire family is yours.
Yes,
but
the entire
world is yours. But then you have to choose between the right and wrong, and you have to keep on knowing what is right.
Right.
And so if we infer from this famous text and phrase in Banyan Tribe, we believe that the entire world is one family, and doing business is very important, and helping the young entrepreneurs and taking the experience from the seasoned entrepreneurs. So this platform, we are creating this ecosystem here, believing in this thought that yes, world is one family, and we are here to help each other. Right. And as you said, I should be compassionate and kind, and the intent should meet.
Yeah.
So that is the idea that I would take away from here, and which is happening in Banyan Tribe, that we have to help each other and be compassionate, be kind, and be there for each other to support in their business.
Right. I think this is exactly, this is the main reason I connect with Banyan Tribe, because I also fully committed to that version, that we should always consider everyone as a family, and we should always have an intent to help each other. So congratulations to you to have this much amazing platform and community.
Thank you so much, Rohit, and it is a pleasure and a motivation at Banyan Tribe to everyone when people like you associate with Banyan Tribe. The people with intellect, people with high energy, the fresh perspective of the world. It is a pat on the back of Banyan Tribe. The people like you associate with.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So Rohit, going back to our earlier part of the conversation where you said and talked about India. So how do you see India in the next 10 years? What role do you see India playing in the world?
So the world is going through very interesting situations right now. You have Russia-Ukraine war is going on. You are seeing recession in the Europe. You are seeing almost recession in the US, and South America has its own problems. So what I believe is, I would not say next 10 years, but I believe in next 25-30 years, US will lose his credibility as a superpower, and now we are going to see multiple superpowers in the world. So if I take a minute to explain how someone become a superpower. So any country to become a superpower needs to have credible incremental difference from others in these areas. So first is currency. Your currency needs to be strong. Education, technology, innovation, R&D, defense, and monetary banks. So these are the 6 or 7 areas where you need to be extraordinarily, incrementally better than others to become a superpower. So because if you don't have these things, it will be very difficult to manage your inside and outside economy. So right now, US hold in all those 7, 8 areas. US has upper hand. But what I see in next 25 years is going to fall apart. And the reason it's going to fall apart is because we are seeing a huge rise of China, and China has a huge economic power. It has a humongous defense, and it has a very good control on the currency. But because of its own culture, it can never become a sole superpower. Because it's a very close culture country, it's very difficult for anyone from the outside to come and invest in the country. It's very difficult for any other country to do business with them and go there and do the business. So as we said, until unless you become a community, it's very difficult to grow. So no matter how good you are individually, but if you're not going to welcome others inside your country, it's very difficult to do. So that's the limitation China has. In addition to that, China also has a decreasing demographic. So right now, I think 60% of the people are already adult. So next 25 years, all of them is going to near 50 to 60 years old. And at the time when the conversion happened, they have a very slow rate of childbirth, and there will be very few people at the young age. Because there are going to be few people at young age, there will be the GDP might fall down. If the GDP fall down, of course, you cannot become a superpower. So China is facing its own issues. So, but China holds defense and currency power. So India has a huge potential because of its generation. So right now, it's 65 to 75% falls between 16 to 45. So we have a huge young generation.
The first time I'm hearing this thing that population has fallen in our favor.
Yeah, it has. It has fallen in our favor. If we use it correctly, if we use it in our favor, it's a humongous benefit, leverage India has, because we have a generation which is energetic, ready to learn, educated, speaks English, and we are always welcome other countries. We are not rigid. And having that much of population with these much merits, you always have a more leverage.
It's giving me goosebumps right now when you are saying all these things, and this takes me back to where we were discussing, because it is in our DNA that world is one family, and that is why we are so open to the other cultures and learning from them. So wow, that's a great thing that India is going to be a superpower. Wow.
I don't know if India is going to be a superpower, but it's going to be. I believe there will be no superpower. There will be multiple powers. And multiple powers, and India has a very good chance to become one of the powers. And India's geography, and India's demography, and India's economic situation, and hopefully touchwood political, if it goes in the right direction, then it has a very good chance to have one strong hold in the world. So that's where I see the trajectory going when it comes to the world.
And as we are spiritual people, because we believe in spirituality more than religion, so we will whoever is listening to this podcast right now, so guys, we do believe in manifestation. Please manifest for our country and be patriotic. Let's make India a superpower in the coming years.
Absolutely. I think India has a very good chance to stand next to all the superpowers. If our economic trajectory becomes same, we are right now somewhere around 3.5 trillion dollar economy. Once we reach 5 trillion, which estimates say by between 2025 to 27, once we reach 10 trillion dollar economy, the next will be around 7 trillion, which is Japan or England. So we have a huge $3 trillion economy difference, and that's what makes a country superpower, because the incremental difference is huge. So right now, if you see, third country is Germany or Japan, which $5 trillion economy, and the second is China, which 14-15 trillion dollar. See the amount of difference they have. Wow, and then US is $20 trillion economy. So the difference makes them a superpower and the candidates. India has a good chance because of the population, geography, demography, politics, that we can, once we reach $10 trillion economy, we have a very good chance.
Your knowledge of demographies, your knowledge of data, this is like commendable. I am like in awe of you right now.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So, Rohit, As we spoke about economies, and now given the Russia-Ukraine wars and because of the geopolitics, so many war zones, are cropping up. So how do you see this? Is there a, do we expect World War III happening?
I hope not. I hope not. I don't think there will be World War Three. And what I believe is World War Three is not going to be the same as World War One or World War 2. World War Three is more likely to be 101% Cold War is going to be coming back. And the Cold War earlier it was between USSR and the US. Now it's going to be between USA and China. And the Cold War is going to be based on data, AI, uh, space exploration. We're talking about moon exploration. We're talking about Mars. So that's where the Cold War is going to be. But if you talk about real World War Three using weapon and defense, the chances are low, but you never know. There are two very different mindset people sitting on the two corners. One is Joe Biden sitting in the US, which is, in my understanding, is not a very strong president right now. And the other way is Putin, who is going to do anything to save his share of land. So I don't think there's going to be World War, but of course uh, there might be disconnect, and there's a very high chance that Russia lose its space in the world, and China takes that space. So then after this, once they settle it down, then the Cold War will start for sure. It will start in next 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. I don't know, but it will start, and Cold War will start between China and US, and whosoever won it. If China won it, then there's going to be multiple superpower, as I said. If US won it, then again US going to be.
So it is like very sad to hear that people are focused on, as you said, exploring the moon, exploring the space. They're going to fight over that. I mean, why people don't fight over that? Why people in your land are not happy? They are not positive. They are not growing. They don't fight over that. They fight over moon. I mean, you have to live on Earth ultimately. Why not fighting on that?
Okay. So there are, in my opinion, there are two answers. One is ground reality answer, and then one I have my own spiritual and spiritual answer. So I will give you a ground reality answer. That there our resources are limited. The resources on the earth is limited, and the resources which we are exploiting, the speed we are exploiting an environment and exploiting the resources are high, incrementally higher than it should be. So of course, I am not worried about the next 2-3 generations, but if we talk about next 10 generations, it's very difficult to sustain on Earth as per the data. We can save it. There's no, I'm not saying that it's not possible, but exponential efforts are required from everyone and every single individual to save this resources and come up with new innovative ideas to use alternative resources.
Yeah, Rohit, when you said about exploitation of the resources and population, that is very well, that happens and that will happen. And it says that why we need to go to the moon and stuff. And when you spoke about the efforts that one has to take towards taking the planet ahead for next 10 generations to come. So I see Save the Soil initiative of Sadhguru, which is a huge revolution that what he's doing right now. So I hope, and let's hope that this happens for the good of the planet. So coming back to your expertise, Rohit. So as you are an expert in operations and finances, and you specialize in consulting the startups. So the startup failure rate, I'll talk about the failure rate in India. It is like more than 60 or 70%. They start with high energy, good ideas, but they fail. So what happens over there, and what is your advice for the startups to flourish?
Okay, so firstly, I would say this that's not in India, everywhere in the world. Plus, it's not only startup; it's all the business. So if I give you a small data, 85% of companies in the US are doing business less than 100,000 a year, and 13% are doing $1 million a year, and I think 3% are doing less than $1 billion, and there's only 0.004% company who are doing a revenue more than $1 billion. So there are very limited companies who are scoring that high, what we are aiming for. Now coming back to your question about startups, why startups fail? I would say There are multiple reasons, of course, why startups fail, but the core reason which I can figure out is there are only two at the end of the day. Either startups fall out of intent or they fall out of resources. So either of them, if there's a startup who's trying to change the world and started with a good energy and but at the end of the day, if this falls short of resource, and it can be any type of resource. Money is one of the biggest one we see, but it's I feel in current scenario it's the lowest one. What the major reason is that you fall a resource of good team, you fall a resource of good opportunity, you fall a resource of good processes, good softwares. So all these are resources. So you fall short of resources, or you just fall short of intent. People who started with an intent, either the intent changed in between, or your intent you come to see that this is not where I wanted to be. A founder start feeling that I am being used, I am being abused by the investor. So any change of an intent or fall short of a resources are the two major reasons which I feel that people fall short of success or fall short of, I would not say success, I would say continuation in the business. The reason for them fail, when we say fail, it means that winding up or filing for a bankruptcy is because of either of these two reasons. Because one thing which everyone fails to understand is, and that's also a concept from an American author named Simon Sinek, which talks about infinite gains. He talks about that when we're talking about business, we're not talking about a quarter or a year or 10 years. We're talking about an infinite business going for life. So there's no metrics of success or failure. And no one can decide a metrics because we don't have an organization which says that all the business in the world should follow this metrics. We just come to know and we start believing that revenue, market cap, profit, EBITDA, and all those things are there. But no one decided it. So it's not like if you feel that I am a failure, I am become a failure. If I am in the game, I'm still in the game. But you fall out of the game, you fall short of the game, you drop out of the game only because when you fall short of resources or you're short of intent. Other than that, high and low phases everyone sees, and all the startups sees, all the big companies, everyone sees that. So that's part of the journey. But failure is, I feel, because of these two reasons.
Failure comes only when you give up.
When you give up, exactly.
Give up. Yeah. If you're in the game, you are in the game.
You are in the game. No matter how bad your quarter is, you are in the game.
And when you said there is no set matrix for business, but then when you're in business, everything is numbers, and if you're not making those numbers, so there would be something which would mark you as you're successful or not.
It depends on who you're saying to and to whom you're trying to prove your success or not. Means if are you proving this to your employees? Are you asking this question from your investors? Is it from the supplier? Is it from the customer? Or is it just to a founder? Who is asking this question matters a lot. And then only you can say I'm a success or a failure. If I talk about the startup culture from 2015 to 2021 also, you see most of the startup fails. Facebook, forget about startup, big company, Facebook, Google, everyone is laying off. Invested the market, Tesla stock fall 65%. Facebook stock fell around 70%. Google fell 35%. Apple fell for 22%. So these are the biggest giant company in the world, and the market is a failure for the investor. But if you talk about the employees was in India, they were offering packages of 1 crore to individuals. For them, it's a success. Why Google is a failure? Google is amazing.
It's a perspective.
It's a perspective who's asking this. So that's why the metrics is not a correct way to judge it, because metrics changes, and the perspective to see the metrics also changes depending to whom you are answering. So if you're talking generally when you talk about the numbers, you're talking about the perspective of an investor. And if you see businesses from the perspective of investors, I don't think it's a good world to be in, where you're only answering to those people who are giving you money with intent to get more money out of it. But that's a very important part of it, but that's not the only part of it.
So money is definitely an important factor in any business.
Yes.
Because that's the major important resource that is going to get another resource.
Right.
As you said, software, employees,
teams,
everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's the major resource that's going to get it. Right.
not money, but yes, we can say capital is
Capital.
is one of the major
Right.
resources you have, but it's not the only one. It's one of the major resources.
So for any startup which has invested a huge capital in the business, so if they're incurring losses over and over and over, so there must be a point for them that where, as you said, they lose intent.
Mhm.
And
Or they fall short of resources.
or they fall short of resources. So it's like kind of overlapping. If they're falling short of resources, so they will lose intent.
No,
Eventually.
that's not true. I'll give you a small example. When the first flight, so I'll take you back to the US when the plane was founded. So there was, I forget the name, but there was a very famous physician in the US, and the US government gave him $100,000 at that time uh, to figure out an airplane. They want someone to figure out the airplane, and he has all the money in the world. He has press going around. He has a huge team. People from MIT joined him, and he has a huge team of like 50, 60 people going there. And he has press all around it. So he have all the resources and intent to do it. But people who actually do it, the Wright brothers, do it from their pocket money. They sold their land to make a plane. No one was looking when they took a first flight. They have no team. Only two people were there who do it. So it's not like you lose intent when you don't have resources. I would say the other way around. That if you don't have intent, you stop looking for resources. You just don't look for the resources. So the resources is very much secondary when it comes to do the business or comes to do anything in the life. Intent is foremost thing. As you said earlier, that we need to manifest.
Yes.
So when you manifest, you have to have that intent to manifest it. So once you have the intent, when you start manifesting, the resources start coming along the way.
That's profound what Rohit has just shared. That when you lose intent, then the game is you're out of the game. But if you have the intent, right intent, so you will manage the resources. Everything will fall in place if you don't give up. So this is for all the startups. This is a huge takeaway and a lesson from Rohit that don't give up. Believe in your dream and everything else will fall into place.
Yes.
Right, Rohit?
Yes, I do agree. I think the only reason you'll fall out of game if you have intent and no resources, if you are too much in debt. That's the only way. Debt is not only the debt. If you're taking too much money from the investors and you lost most of your company to someone else, of course you'll go out of the business if the money stop coming. But again, you have the intent. You can start again. If you're not looking for the audience, you're looking for performance. You can perform anywhere.
But then where the expertise comes for the startups, for people like Rohit. So when you are in debt, when you are being bullied by the investors, when you're not making profit, so you should get into touch with people like Rohit, and Rohit's information shall be available in the podcast, and you can see in the comment section or in the description, and you can reach out to Rohit, who specializes in giving services to the startups. Yes. So Rohit, the world is yours, and I look forward to the startups coming to you for taking your expertise and taking your expert advice and helping them grow. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. And it's giving me goosebumps because when I'm talking to you, I feel like I'm talking to some Shark Tank sitting over here.
I wish.
No, it will happen, and it is really nice because getting this intellect connect, it is really important, and I feel privileged that I'm talking to you today at this podcast. Thank you so much, Rohit, for coming here, talking to us on the Banyan Tribe platform. And on behalf of everyone at Banyan Tribe, I wish you all the best. Best wishes to you for your growth, and may you help others also grow. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anu, and thank you for having me.